Welcome, everybody. This is Binghamton City Council work session. It is 6:02 PM on Monday, May 5th. I call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, can we do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Murray is absent. Councilmember Middleton.
Present.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Present.
Councilmember Rathmel. Present. Councilmember Matavetsky.
Present.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Present.
Council President Dundon.
Present.
Thank you.
So our first presenter of the evening is David Holleran. He's the president of the IAF Local 729, and this is in the Finance Committee, and I will hand this over to the chairman, Councilmember Kavanaugh. Come on down, Dave.
Good evening. Good evening. So this is a discussion for RL 2588, a resolution authorizing a home rule request to offer 25-year retirement plan for 2 firefighters. Dave, I'm just going to let you try and lay this out for us. It's complex.
Very good. This is a correction effort. The 2 members identified in this RL were put into the wrong plan. The vast majority of my members are in a 20-year retirement plan. A handful of other guys, maybe 3 or 4 guys, are in a 25-year 1/60th plan. Both of those are provided for in our collective bargaining agreement. These 2 guys in the RL are in a 25-year nothing plan, I'll call it. As I said, the retirement system is complicated. Efforts have been made at the state level to eliminate this from happening again. With this home rule legislation, New York State Senate and Assembly can pass legislation allowing these 2 guys to move into the 25-year 1/60th plan. It's a bit of a timing issue. Session days are limited. I think New York State session is supposed to get out middle of June. And if we don't get it done before then, we'll have to start over again next year. So looking for your support to move this resolution forward to allow these guys to switch into the 25-year 1/60th plan. There's options on how to pay for it, one-time payment or amortizing it over 10 years. Both of them, they're different amounts because of the length of time on the job. At this point in time, I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
I do. So how does that happen? Like, how did they get into this? Because Roberts, I thought we had something like this last year.
We did. It's to get into the 25-year 1/60th plan. It's a 2-step situation where when they came on, they had to sign that they wanted the 25-year plan, and then paperwork was supposed to be forwarded to them at a later date that then they needed to go from the 25-year base plan to the 1/60th plan. And that's where in one guy's case, there was the disconnect. The first guy that we did legislation for in the past, he wasn't in any plan. He was never in any of the plans. And so the first step for him was to put him in the 25-year plan. And this is step 2 for him to put him in the 1/60th plan.
I guess my question would be, do we have anyone else we haven't checked on or caught up yet?
We did an audit a couple of years ago, our union, and we had the retirement system provide all of the members in what plans they were in. And that's how we identified these guys. Moving forward, as I said, with our state association lobbied the retirement system to default people into the 20-year plan. So a Pavlik situation can never happen again. When a new person comes on the job, by default, they're put into the 20-year plan.
So at least there will be in a plan.
They were going to be in the
In
best
a,
plan.
at least in a plan.
If they
It's okay.
chose, and we just hired with your support, 15 new firefighters, actually 14. And we met with them during orientation and made sure that they understood their retirement options. But currently, they don't have to do anything. By default, they're put into the 20-year plan. I pointed out to them that if any of them wanted to do the 25-year 160th, they'd have to see me and we'd have to do additional paper. We'd have to do paperwork to move them into that plan, but by default, they're in the best plan possible. So this won't ever happen.
Thank you for taking point on this and being, there for your guys. So, and women.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have one, which is that this is coming into the assembly under two different bills. Do we need two separate resolutions, one for each, or do you know if we can combine them into one? We can
Amy
always-
Abadi from Assemblywoman Lepardo's office seemed to indicate that it was okay to be in one, but
Okay.
would prefer that you outline both the Senate number and the Assembly number in that resolution.
So as far
We've
as I
run
know,
into
there's
formatting
no-
stuff before last year with, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think there's a Senate bill number yet.
I do have, she
Okay.
just emailed it to me today. I'll turn that over to whoever wants all that information.
Bob, are you going to take responsibility? Okay, because
This is the Senate's number.
it
and
seemed like
that's-
both chambers wanted different things and at different time was, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, if nobody else has any questions, I did see this was checks for expedition. Can I get a motion to expedite?
Motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right, and all in favor? Or no, we should do a roll call. Do a roll call, Madam Clerk. A second? Nate?
No, it was me and Robert
Whatever.
at the same time.
Out of the corner of my eye, I move forward.
Councilmember Rathmel. Aye. Councilmember Matavetsky. Aye. Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember
Aye.
Middleton. Councilmember Murray is absent. Council President Dundon.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 6-0.
Moving on, our next presenter is Sarah Gloss, the Director of Economic Development, and this is in the Municipal and Public Affairs Committee, and I will hand it over to the Chair of the Committee, Councilmember Middleton.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, Sarah.
Oh, how are you?
Go ahead. So this is RL 25-86, a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a grant from the Broome County Health Department. Can you explain that?
Yes. So this is an additional $10,000 on top of the $30,000 grant that I brought to this body a few months ago. That's R 25-12, which was adopted 3/12/2025. As they were closing out their year end with this grant, they had $10,000 that had not been spent out of a line that was specifically for cancer prevention via sun safety. So they requested that we purchase 2 shaded benches with the funds that were available. And this is just a contract modification to reflect that 10,000 that will be passed 5/15/2025 by the Broome County Legislature. So that'll be passed before this goes to a vote at the, not Wednesday's business meeting, but the business meeting after that.
And where are the benches located?
They'll be on the Greenway, the 434 Greenway.
And this came out of it looks like it came out of the cancer community fund?
Yep.
Is this something that we get every year?
It's a county grant, so they just came to me and said they had additional money to spend. I do believe we have been the subrecipient of these funds previously, but I was not involved in that at that time.
And this has to be used for that, or is that, how does that work?
That's what they asked me to spend it on, and it's
Okay.
their grant money, so I frankly didn't ask any questions. I know there was a couple of requests by members of the community to the health department for some shaded benches along areas that don't have tree cover.
Sure.
So that was where that came from.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the 30K that we adopted on March 12th was part of the Creating Healthy Schools and Communities initiative
Correct.
in relation primarily to the Complete Streets. policy action plan? Is the Community Cancer Prevention and Action Program part of that initiative?
It's not my understanding. I think this was just a way for them to quickly reallocate the money within the legislative framework they already had for this grant. But they're both under the Broome County Health Department.
I had the same question as far as where the council member Middleton asked and whether or not this is the only allocation option. For that 10,000, you did represent that the budget line item is particular to the Community Cancer Prevention and Action Program.
That's correct.
Okay. This may not be a question for you since you've already said it's not, I mean, relatively within your purview, but so the main focus areas of the Community Cancer Prevention and Action Program, educating the public, working with local employers to allow and promote paid time off for cancer screenings, a couple of other things. Are you aware how many partnerships with local employers to provide PTO for cancer screenings?
I do not. I
Have
did
been
look this up on
established?
the, I believe the New York State Department of Health website, and it only gives a lump sum number. And so this is just a very small portion. I don't want to say it off the top of my head, but I believe it was several $100,000 in the total allocation.
Who would the contact be that we could direct questions to?
I don't have her name off the top of my head. I'm happy to provide that to you, but
Okay.
these funds do need to be spent ASAP,
Do you have a deadline?
May 30th. And this was just provided to me on the last legislative update cycle for Broome County as they approach their year end.
I think the kind of part of the context is that with the last grant that we voted to accept, this was going to be where the money was going until we worked out the Oak Street stuff. And now there's some of the, or is that
No,
different?
that's not accurate. The 30,000 is a
perfect.
completely different scope. So that includes the Oak Street crossing, regular, convertible benches on the 434 Greenway, trash cans on the 434 Greenway. There was a potential rec park project that's not going to be possible due to the state budget being delayed. We don't have the match in hand and can't spend those funds fast enough. So we're now working with the health department to pivot to a couple of other items that are in the scope and we've already had approved through the state under previous.
So these are
grants.
additional benches to the benches that are
Correct.
through that other one. Okay.
Yes, and
I was
they're
thinking it might be displaced because of the Oak Street project moving forward, that the funds would be. lower,
No,
but-
no,
so this
these
is
are
additional.
totally different. So the grants, or I'm sorry, the benches that we bought under the Creating Healthy Schools and Communities grants were quite inexpensive. These shaded benches are a much larger dollar amount.
You for clarifying.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Thank you so much, Sarah.
Well, thank you.
Our next presenter is Josh Paludi, Acting Commissioner of Public Works. This is in the Public Works Committee, and I will hand it over to the chairperson, Councilmember Hotchkiss.
So we're discussing RL 25-87, an ordinance to amend the 2025 DPW fund budgets for over budget items. You want to give us an overview of what you're looking at here?
So I have two over budget items we need to address. The first is our overtime budget for winter operations, so snow plowing operations. I'd like to move 20 grand from our sand and salt budget into the overtime budget. This year we ran over in overtime a little bit, trying to stay ahead of snow and ice. And we're just real short for the end of this year. I got to remember that I see winter 2 times a year. So this will take us through January to where I get my reallocation in the next budget season.
Okay, so
Might need it, might not, just depends on the weather. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
How are we looking on our snow and sand snow and sand, salt and sand stocks? There we go. Say that 5 times fast.
We are back right where we're supposed to be. We had to get creative this winter. I think we did a pretty good job of that. We had in my office, not too many complaints when it came to snow and ice this year. I haven't heard from
Yes,
any
I
of you.
heard many positive comments, particularly on Woodland.
And like I said, we got really creative this year with it. I'm going to try and stay with that when it comes to our sand and salt budget, because in the past, it gets a little crazy sometimes. Can't promise anything. It just depends on what Mother Nature brings us. But as of right now, our salt bin is right where it should be, ready for next year.
What about the vehicle repair? What's that related to?
So the vehicle repair balance. So we have vehicle repair and vehicle parts. Vehicle repair is when we have to send a vehicle out to get repaired. Where I'm having a major problem now is proprietary software in these trucks, especially when it comes to DEF systems. Anybody who's involved in the trucking industry understands what a DEF system is. It, layman's terms, it makes it so the exhaust is more green, more environmentally friendly. The only problem with that is, especially when you have trucks like garbage trucks or plow trucks that are not ran at high speeds a lot, these filters get jammed up and they do this thing called a regen where they clean themselves. Only problem is with some of these trucks, they don't regen quite the way they should. And after so much time, these filters become plugged. They have to be taken to the dealership, taken out, put into a special oven, layman's terms again, and baked to be completely cleaned out so we can still use that truck. And what I'm learning is most of our CVs were bought in 2020, 21. They're to the point now where they can't regen themselves and these filters need to be regened at the dealership. Same problem for engine injectors. Any newer style truck that runs codes, especially example would be John Deere. Our sweepers are the sweeper aspect of the motor is all John Deere. Any code that runs in that, you have to take it to them to find out what is exactly wrong with it. Now, I'm not talking about a hose or a connector or something like that, but when there's injectors not working right or any of the internal combustion parts not working right, it throws a code and we just don't have a John Deere computer to run the diagnostic on it. So it doesn't make sense to get something towed somewhere, get the diagnostic, find out what's wrong, hope that we have specialized John Deere tools for some of this stuff too, bring it back, fix it, take it back to get the code cleared. It just doesn't make sense to do that.
Right. It's interesting hearing about it being an issue affecting DPW because there's the whole right to repair movement that I think it's mostly driven by farmers wanting to be able to repair their tractors, but they can't with John Deere. But this kind of hits a lot closer to home.
I mean, Nate, just to give
yeah.
us some context, basically anything that runs diesel, whether it's Bobcats, skid steers, backhoes, dozers, they all run the DEF system. They all have to regen. And if anything goofs up with it, like Josh is saying, even contractors don't have the mechanics in-house that can do it. That's why you'll see CAT on some job sites. Sometimes you got the big CAT truck because you had to bring in a specialist to do it. But the DEF systems, yeah, that's part of anything diesel, probably since 2015 or even newer than that.
Any kind of construction equipment.
Yeah. So are you looking to go through the whole fleet of the filters under the DEF system to have that done, or is this just the amount?
It's not something you can do ahead of time.
Okay.
It's the truck decides it's time and it tells you, and then you have no choice. You have to take it. You just have to do it. Just like if you have a Toyota and Toyota codes throw, there's nothing you can take it to Josh's Automotive all you want. And they're going to go, listen, I'd love to help you out, but you have to be a factory authorized dealer to fix this problem.
Do you know if there are maintenance contracts or anything that might be a more efficient way to deal with this or not, or is it just?
So that's something I'm starting to look into. I'm not too sure about it yet. I'm just starting to see this problem. Like I said, our CVs are relatively new and they're just starting to do this. Our garbage trucks this has kind of been a problem for a little while, but we haven't had it on kind of this scale yet.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Robert Heary, Acting Corp Counsel, and it is in the Public Works Committee, and I will pass it over to Councilmember Hotchkiss, who's the committee chair.
This is RL 25-91, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with New York State Department of Transportation for water main improvements. Do you have anything else that you can add, Mr. Heary?
Yeah, I would say it's less water main improvements and more like water main relocation. Basically, as part of the Greenway project the DOT is doing, they need to move some of the pipes and some of the valves that we have, so that they can do different curb cuts and stuff, and reduce some of the stormwater in the system. So this is just basically saying, yeah, you can move our pipes, and be able to do that, move the project along.
Yeah, that's, so the state's fitting the whole bill then?
Yes.
That was my only question. Anyone else have any other questions? All right, thanks, Bob. Our next presenter is Police Chief Joe Zukoski, and this is in the Municipal and Public Affairs Committee, and I'll hand it over to Councilmember Middleton, who is the committee chair.
Thank you, Chief. How are you this evening? Good. So this is for RL 25-89, a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a $162,554 dollar grant from New York State Division of Criminal Justice. I think it's regarding the Strive grant. Can you explain that? Got to push it down probably a little bit. It has to be green and you
Let
got,
me know. Yep.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. This is a new initiative by the governor's office as well as Department of Criminal Justice Services. They gather statistics on domestic violence throughout the state and awarded large sums of money to all these jurisdictions. It's a new program. They expect it to go on indefinitely for years, regardless who's sitting in the governor's chair. The grant was specific to the Broome County and the Bennington Police Department. The original grant was, the total amount is $750,767. That amount of 162,554 is when the budget was done as our share of that amount. There's several requirements. There's got to be coordinator hired. The first year they said is going to be a struggle for all municipalities that are taking part in this. Each jurisdiction can set up for their unique problems. So there's not the guidelines that they sent out, it's 54 pages long, but you have to submit what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. And they said there's going to be a big learning curve this first year. So, you know, that domestic violence term is the Strive grant. It stands for, it's a long acronym. It sounds like it's just for violence, but domestic violence there's a lot of terms, you know, that it's just not violence. It's abuse, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, threats. It covers all parts of domestic violence. So we're in the process of setting up. There's a committee. The executive committee is myself, district attorney office, and crime victims. And then there's a full committee. We're the executive committee that decided on the budget and is going through the process of setting up how this program is going to be run in Broome County.
Could we be involved in that if possible?
In what way?
Just the process of it.
Right.
Just kind of seeing like what is going on because we're voting on it. So it's like I just think that I know that all of us on council, we like to kind of be involved on things we're voting on, not to really give an opinion, but just to kind of understand what we're voting on.
Well, sure. Everything we do is available to anybody in the public.
We didn't even know about this.
It's only been, the initial award letter was September of last year, but this just got off the ground. I went to an orientation in Albany like 3 weeks ago for 3 days. Yes, you can. The majority of this money is going to social organizations, crime victims, and caretakers these women can go to for treatment, for guidance. So that's where the majority of money is going, other than the next RL for an analyst, which the state strongly suggested we have, and there's got to be a paid coordinator. So it's a community thing. So absolutely, the
Thank
more
you.
community, there's all sorts of outside social service agencies that are on a smaller committee. We're the three of us are executive committee. Probation's involved, but there's outside the SOS shelter Rise is involved.
Yeah.
There's several different organizations that sit on the committee that determine the budget.
Yes, I do think that's important. Were you gonna say
Yeah,
something?
yeah, I
else
was
about
gonna
that?
say probably someone from the MPA.
I would
committee
love
should
to.
be in attendance.
I would love to like be involved just to kind of see what's going on. If we can help in any way, I mean, like, we're not gonna influence any decisions on anything, but just to kind of see like what's going on
Like
and
an
how we
ex
can support
officio.
the bill. Yeah. How we-
Ex
It's
officio.
required, once we get off the ground, it's required a monthly meeting. So
Sure.
it's open to the
I'd love
public.
to be there.
No, that schedule has not been set up yet.
Please. Yeah, I would love to be there for that.
Chief, can you describe your department's current response protocol for domestic violence calls and why it needs to be improved?
Why it needs to be approved?
Why it needs to be improved? That's the
Well, you
what
know, this
Representative
is,
Grant.
Police historically are, on a domestic violence, you go, you take the report. People, a very large number of women don't want assistance. We refer them, we have crime victim cards, we give them, and that's how most police departments operate now. Part of our budget for the Bennington Police Department, a cell phone is going to be put in every patrol car, as part of this grant. There's statistics showing that if a woman is subject to some type of domestic violence, if she speaks to an advocate right then, she's much more likely to follow up. So that the plan is statewide, not our plan, is that call will be less than 5 or 10 minutes. I'm so-and-so, I'm from Rise, I'm from Crime Victims. I'd like to come see you tomorrow and see and try to get them services. So it's a whole different approach. As I said, the approach is 54 pages long. There's got to be monthly reports, tracking offenders, tracking victims, and coordinating the outreach to people that in the past they just weren't getting.
The 54 pages that you mentioned, you said earlier that each jurisdiction is responsible for setting up their grant to address unique problems. Maybe this was included in Councilmember Middleton's request too, but a copy of that 54-page report
Sure.
would be helpful in informing. So the state's announcement of the Strive grant indicates the implementation of evidence-based strategies to enhance the safety of survivors. You mentioned the cell phone. Can you describe what any other strategies are going to be?
Well, we haven't got to that point at this point. As I said, the initial meeting was to set up the budget, who's going to be involved, how we were going to do this. And the district attorney's taken the lead role in that, although I'm on the executive committee along with crime victims. There's various strategies we're going to take. One is just to get these people help to get to talk to somebody. And that's the state at the orientation that was 2.5 days. Strive that the main thing is to get these people talking to somebody so they can get services, which is lacking. And so there's going to be a 24-hour hotline manned, and that's already really not going to cost any money. Rice says that they already do that anyway, and they're part of this, and they might have got some funds for some other stuff, so they don't need that money to talk because they fund that position already 24/7. So. We're in the process of exactly how we're going to work this out, what we're going to do. Counties are starting to share what their ideas. As they said, the first year is going to be a struggle for every municipality or every jurisdiction, setting up how they're going to do it and how this is going to get done because it's never been done before. They brought people in from Connecticut where they run this at the orientation I went to, and someplace else. I think it was Baltimore, where they're trying to set this up. So it's a new thing off the ground, so I don't have all the answers.
For the lead analyst position, how do you anticipate that position better addressing the needs of survivors?
Do you want to finish this out and get to our next one and we can ask that or no?
Or we could just tie them in together.
we can
We'll
tie
just
them in
read it
together.
off
That's
right
fine.
now since they
Yeah,
overlap.
that's fine.
This
Yeah,
way it
yeah,
makes sense to, instead of
Doing
have
it.
that questioning and then for the public,
Sure.
go back to it.
yeah.
So we'll tie this in with RL 25-90, which is an ordinance to amend the 2025 budget to add the position of lead domestic violence analyst. Since both of these RL do go hand in hand, we're going to discuss them together just for the people in the public so they're
Mhm.
aware.
So just same question, the position specifically, the lead analyst position is described as one of the goals to better address the needs of domestic violence victims. So I understand the connection to the service providers, the victim service providers who are already actively providing critical support. How do you anticipate this position functioning specifically to better address the needs of DV victims?
Well, the first thing is to track everything. There's people repeatedly are victims and nobody's really tracking that. There's repeat offenders that aren't being tracked. There's numerous requirements, monthly reporting to the state on this. So to be that person's job to the mapping to see if there's the part of the job is to find out what is the commonality, if there is one, and who's getting services, who isn't, why they're not getting services. So there's, as I said, there's a lot of the state didn't insist upon it, but they strongly suggested every jurisdiction have a crime analyst that would pull everything together, all these reports. I have a stack of reports from the first of the year of domestics in my office. It's probably about that high just in the city of Bennington. And there's no, once the arrest is made or not, people sign off. It's always been in the past. That's it. There's not going to be in our the $162,000 we got, 30,000 of that is for overtime to go out and speak to these people, with or without an advocate, whichever. There's going to be people reviewing that. Okay, might be best if the police go with us, or in this case, maybe not. As I said, we're in the process of setting us up like the rest of the state, how exactly it's going to work. So her job is going to be to collect all that data. Who's the repeat offenders? Who's getting counseling where, and tracking everything for the state.
I had a
I
question.
was gonna say, you
Oh.
used a pronoun there. So do you have someone identified for
We
this?
do. There's a crime analyst that works in the center now. She's in the National Guard. And she's worked some years. And so she would like this position. So, obviously we got to post it. If you approve the position and acceptance of the grant, post it and see who's applies. But she has all sorts of statistics or all sorts of background. She tracks all our overdoses for the county now, and she does all sorts. So she's very well. We're not just hiring somebody off the street. She's very well versed as a crime analyst. She's well respected in the center as well as the state people know her.
Councilmember Middleton, you had a
Oh, no,
question?
she took no, it's okay. That's good. I was gonna ask the same question.
So I have a question, Chief. So in theory, because this is new, as long as we keep getting this grant, that's what's going to keep being able to pay for this position then, and we won't have to worry about budgeting for it?
Absolutely. I'm told in the new budget, there's already the 760 has already gone to $1 million for us next year
Okay.
in the new budget. I asked that same question because and she doesn't want to give up the job. She has to take this job. And the state says, like, we've had impact and now we have impact rolling to give. That's like 18, 20 years. The state's telling us each area has a representative from DCJS that, as I said, they expect this, what governor, even if there's a different governor, can throw away a domestic violence program. So they expect us to go on indefinitely. Obviously, there's no guarantee, but they said they expect years and years because she had that question.
Okay.
How long-
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind
how
of why I
long
was
does my job-
asking, are we going to do this? And then
Yeah.
next year but
So,
being new, that's,
I'm told there's already $1 million for Boone County in the current, the budget they're in the process of passing out in the state.
So when you say that 30 grand is reserved for overtime, is that included in, if I'm looking at this now, we've got 162.5,
Mhm.
85K for the analyst position, and you're saying 30K then for overtime. But
Mhm.
earlier you represented that the majority is going to social service organizations, but that would actually just,
750,000. This
Of the
162 is just part
750.
of our 750,000.
okay,
I
what,
have a budget for the BPD that you're welcome to. Just it's the analyst and her salaries and her salary and her fringe benefits. There's the $30,000 for overtime. There's $10,750 for the buy the cell phones, which we're getting for $10 a piece in the monthly fee. They want to make the state didn't require it, but a soft interview room. couch. So when you're interviewing a victim, it's not the, you put them in a room like the same place we interrogate suspects. So they have a person that goes around the state they've already contracted with. It's cost us nothing. They came up with a figure that the furniture that we need for the interview room would be $3,000. And there's all sorts, there's $5,000 for travel and training. Although they're going to provide all sorts of numerous training at the state's expense also. So that 162 is our share of the 750,000 that the county got, the county and the Bennington Police Department.
Does anyone else have any other questions for the chief? All right. Thank you so much, chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Well, seeing that we've done everything on our agenda, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting adjourned.